Right, I just tried to record this video and I ended up making it about an hour and a half long, so I'm going to give it another attempt and try and actually synopsize it and not let my ADHD completely derail what I'm talking about. I wanted to make this video about pain and why it shouldn't be avoided, why I think everyone does avoid it, and the purpose it actually serves in our life. I'm not a psychologist, you know, I'm not fucking educated in that way, but what I will say is I've been through a hell of a lot of pain in my life, especially over the past 5 years. Pardon me. That's probably going to happen a few times during the video. So yeah, I'm not a psychologist, so why the fuck should you listen to me? I have lost nearly everything in my life since I got hit with a debilitating chronic illness. I have a congenital fucking, what do you even call, like a congenital disease? I don't know if it's classed as a disease, a congenital syndrome called vascular compressions, where veins at different parts of my body are squashed or twisted or bent, and it's put me through a horrendous amount of pain. It's made me lose loads of weight. It's caused me so much psychological pain. I've lost jobs. I've lost relationships. I've underwent surgeries that have been the most painful thing I've ever fucking experienced. This shit has caused me hell. I used to be a personal trainer and a free runner and a bunch of other talents that I had. That was my life. And all of that got taken away from me with the onset of these symptoms that kind of started rearing their head around my mid-20s. Just when things were getting good, I would say. I suffered, like I lost my dad to cancer when I was 11. So I spent my teenage years kind of dealing with that, a lot of like anxiety and stuff, a lot of confusing feelings. And in my early 20s, things started to get a bit better, and then this shit went poof, smashed me all over in my mid 20s. And I've been dealing with it ever since. So, yeah, my point is, I've been through a lot of pain. I went through a surgery in 2020 that I raised my own money for, private surgery, because the NHS didn't give a fuck about us. That's a whole other thing. I raised this money, about 35 grand, went and got operated on privately in Europe, and long story short, I now have two big fat plastic tubes inside of my body, around two of my veins, and they fucking hurt. They do some good, they've helped certain things, but that surgery has changed my life in ways that I don't even know how to describe. I have many nightmares. I'm in a support group of people who got operated on at the same time, and all I'll say at this point, at some point in the future I might go into it more if people like these videos, but I think I went through a surgery that I maybe shouldn't have went through. I think I got lied to, I got deceived, I got sold a dream that wasn't true, because I was in a vulnerable position, and like many other people, I was desperate to get my life back. I was told that I would be better and doing gymnastics again within 3 months. We're 5 years on now from the surgery, and this is my setup, because I can't really stand up for long. I can't really sit in a chair for long. I have to have my computer over my bed. I'm not gonna lie, there are periods of time where I can walk more and I can stand more, but it's very unpredictable, and for the most part that surgery has taken away my mobility and my life, and that is why I believe that I'm at least somewhat qualified to talk about pain and loss and isolation and how it affects us, and in what ways can it help us and help teach us and shit like that. Okay, so basically my view on pain, right, just getting straight into it, is that I believe it is somewhat of an emotional guidance system for us humans. I think that pain indicates on just like it does on a physical level. So on a physical level, pain indicates that something is wrong, something needs to be healed, something needs to be rested, something needs to at the very least be addressed. I believe the same is true for psychological pain and just pain in life. I believe it's an indicator that something is out of alignment, something is not right, something needs to be looked at, something needs to be addressed, and that is why I think that we should actually, it's what I mean when I say I think we should go towards the pain. What I don't mean is what these fucking stupid alpha males and shit say on YouTube, where they talk about hitting themselves in the shin with a hammer over and over again, or smashing their head off a wall to make their bones stronger. That is not what I mean. I think that's voluntary. That's just self-harm, and it's not even self-harm from a place of like depression, or it's just fucking stupid. But that's not what I mean. I believe that like going to the gym and voluntarily putting your muscles through like micro tears and then having like a nice chocolate flavored protein shake to help it repair is not the kind of pain I'm talking about. Okay, so I get it. I used to be a PT and I used to have that kind of attitude, but I don't think that no pain, no gain should be applied to something so voluntary and honestly like leisurely as like inflicting micro damage to your body to grow stronger. Like ultimately that is a fun thing, and if it's not a fun thing, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, when I say like pain teaches us, I don't mean going to the gym and being sore the next day, okay, or hitting yourself in the shin with a hammer. I mean like getting shit taken away from you, you know, like losing a family member, losing your health, losing your job. Or it might not be any of that shit, you might not know where it's from, but you might just suffer like intense psychological pain for a reason you haven't identified yet. My point is, I believe that pain is nearly always pointing us to something that we need to look at and address and try and heal, or, pardon me again, or, you know, try and, I don't like the word fix, you know, I think it needs to be more compassionate than that, but I believe that that's what pain is, okay? I believe that that's what pain is. And I want to give an analogy, an anecdote from my own life to describe like where I think like pain comes into this, like why I think it's a guidance system or whatever. So with my health condition, I've tried a bunch of different you know, pain medications, and tramadol was the one that like I really stuck with. I was on it for about a year and I was addicted. It was really hard to get off. And what I noticed while I was on tramadol was that not only did it cut off my physical pain to a large extent, but it also numbed me from psychological pain, and that was great for a period of time. But what I started to realize was that I felt very disconnected, and I was making decisions that I wouldn't normally make if I wasn't on tramadol. I felt like a lack of direction, and I didn't really understand where I wanted to go. Like that like passion or that like guidance system, your subconscious or God or whatever, it felt like my connection to that was severed almost through being on this drug. And I believe that that is because the pain that you experience, all the emotions you experience, I believe are like guiding you, you know? You can learn and follow happiness and joy like as well, but I believe that pain is just as important. It's two sides of the same coin. Like this is what life is composed of, you know, yin and yang and all that shit. And I think that when I came off tramadol, it's very scary because I felt disconnected for quite a long time. But as my pain started coming back, my physical pain and my psychological pain, as that started coming back into my life, which wasn't pleasant, may I add. I don't think I've ever said may I add before. That felt so fucking stupid. When that started coming back into my life, so did my sense of self-direction. And I think that's really important. I think that's kind of like the crux of the point I'm making with the video. I believe that pain and suffering is integral to give us direction and to know where we need to go towards, or what we need to look at, or what matters to us. So yeah, like I think another cool thing to put in at this point of the video would be, I don't know much about Rumi, right? I don't even know if Rumi's like an author or whatever. Maybe I should have googled it before the video, because they could be like a cult leader and you know, some other crazy shit. But like I don't know fuck all about Rumi, but I know that they wrote this quote, and tell me if I get it wrong, but the wound is where the light enters you. And I totally fucking agree. I think that maybe for me it would be more applicable if it said the wound is where the light has the opportunity to enter you, because I believe that pain can take us one of two ways. It can make us into a villain or a hero. It can make you bitter and angry and shut yourself off from the world, or it can, you know, tear you apart to the point where like you understand other people's pain, and you know, you have to confront all of your ugly bullshit, and ultimately you end up in a position where you can't connect with people more, you can't empathize with people more, because if you've been through something that someone else has been through, of course you can connect more with them. You know, I understand that now. I had no gratitude before I went through all of this shit. You know, I didn't understand what gratitude was, and I certainly didn't comprehend what life could be like for people with like a disability or a crippling mental issue. Like I was kind of one of those people to a large extent where I was like, oh, you want to change your life? Well, do something about it then. No excuses. What's your excuse? It's so easy to do when you're speaking from a place of privilege where you do have your health, mental and physical, you know, but when you get that taken away from you, at least in my case, I started to understand, you know, oh my God, this is what people are suffering with. And now I feel compassion. You know, I've had moments where like I do tear up, and I almost cry because I think about the people that I might have hurt in the past. Because now I understand what pain fucking feels like. And when I think about like people suffering with disabilities and mental health conditions, I feel genuine compassion and pain for these people. That's what empathy is, right? It's feeling someone else's pain and understanding it. And you know, maybe being able to share their joy and stuff as well. But my point is that for me at least, pain was the thing that broke me open. You know, that's what tore me apart. And basically it's not that it upgrades you or like adds things to your personality. I believe what pain does is it gradually strips away all the bullshit that you've put in front of your true personality to distract people and to distract yourself. You know, all the shiny things, all the talents, the tricks. For me, it was the backflips and, you know, the performances on stage and the muscles and agility. Like, I can put all those tricks and shiny things in front of people to avoid the real me and how vulnerable and hurt I am, and what pain does, and going through what I've been through, being stuck in this room 24/7 for months at a time, having to have people help me with everything, help make my food and stuff at times, push me around in a wheelchair. Basically, that gives me no choice but to look at the most vulnerable version of myself and present something way more authentic to people, because I do need help. You know, I can't, sometimes for periods of time, I cannot function without people helping me up and down the stairs, people helping me, pushing me around in my wheelchair or making my food. When you're put in a position like that, and this is just my experience, like, the pain shows you who you really are, you know? And not only that, but it forces you to be able to empathize with other people who are in positions like that. So for me, like, that experience hasn't just made me empathize with people who have a disability, it's made me empathize with just people who are fucking suffering in general. Whereas in the past, I didn't really have that capacity, or at least nowhere near as much. You know, I do think I was quite ignorant, cocky, blunt, and I can still be blunt. It's part of my personality, but I do believe now I have the capacity to understand the pain that other people feel, especially people who are going through like a similar thing to me. Like, of course. But yeah, like, I have friends who, you know, are still involved in like gym and free running and all that, like, athletic stuff. And I have asked them actually before, you know, like, because a lot of them struggle with like insecurity and body dysmorphia and stuff like that. Like, I used to. And if you ask like these types of people, like, who would you be? Like, what would you do like without your muscles or without your like physical agility and stuff? It's like devastating for them to even think about it. And it was for me, you know, I was so identified with that role, that character, but pain forced me to actually go through that and look at like, who the fuck actually am I without these things, you know? And what I have to present to the world now is a lot more raw, but it's also got a lot less bullshit around it. It means I don't have to fucking go around as many corners to get to like, you know, how I actually feel and where I actually am meant to be and what I'm actually meant to be doing, because I've not got all this bullshit in front of it. And I do believe that's the purpose that pain can serve for a lot of us, you know, if we let it. If we let pain, it will tear down our facades and our masks and our like pretendy fucking flashy things, you know. Like, I give an example, you know, like if someone has like a fucking fantastic job, a great car, and a lot of like flashy stuff that they identify with, okay? They think that that is them. If they went through a substantial amount of pain, let's say financial pain, or it could be their health, but often those things go together. Let's say they lost their health, and through that they couldn't work anymore. Through that they lost their car, they lost all their flashy stuff, and you know, their life was looking very different, and there's nothing they can do about it. Okay, who are they now? Who are they looking at in the mirror now? Just them, and no other bullshit. And that is so unbearable and painful for most of us, that we spend the majority of our life avoiding it. But what I'm presenting here is the idea that if we can shift our perspective, pain actually shows us who we really are without all these bells and whistles. And not only who we really are, but what do we need to confront? Which parts of us do we think are ugly? Where have we actually been like really ignorant and apathetic before in our past? Now that we know what pain and loss feels like, you know, this guy in this example who's lost his job or whatever, lost his health, for example, in the past, did he look down on people that didn't have the same kind of stuff as him? You know, did he think that people with health issues or financial issues, you know, were like their own worst problem and like not helping themselves, you know? Like, because now he is gonna have to go through a very painful process of either growing empathy for these people and understanding what it's actually like to live through that pain, or he might become bitter and more of a villain and just blame everyone else. But that's like going away from growth. So that's what I believe pain presents us. It presents us with the opportunity to go down that path of growth, or to just like shut off. But what it does is it gives us a crossroads, and it forces us to choose. Whereas when you're healthy and you don't have any like pain or loss or poverty or lack of or whatever in your life, like you don't really have to confront that crossroads. You don't really have to go there. So you don't really have to grow if you don't want to, because you're not faced with an inevitable, you know, there's no choice that has to be made there. Like when I was healthy, I could have just continued doing what I was doing, distracting myself by learning a bunch of different skills, you know, adopting a bunch of different things that made me really cool and really, so that I just ultimately didn't have to, you know, face that crossroads and look at who I really am. And so yeah, in a nutshell, trying to keep this video much shorter than the last one, I do believe that emotions in general, but like me specifically today, talking about pain, like pain is just as important in life as like joy and happiness, and it's just as big of a teacher. I think it might even be a bigger teacher, to be honest. I don't want to place importance to like the yin over the yang or whatever, but I do think that pain has been more of a teacher, and I truly needed my face dragged through the fucking mud to experience or understand any kind of gratitude. I don't believe that I had no empathy at all before I went through what I went through, but I believe that it was lacking, and I needed, you know, I wouldn't have been taught this lesson just from breaking my leg. Some people go through that, you know. I've got a friend who had like serious knee surgery. He was out for like a couple of months, and he got it like straight away. He was just like, okay, now I know what I'm grateful for. You know, I know what it's like to lose it. That wouldn't have been enough for me. I was too, like, I don't know what the word is, like too stubborn. I lost my dad when I was younger. I lost a bunch of other family members. And even when I did have like health problems starting, they weren't enough to like make me go, oh, okay, hang on. I need to be grateful for what I've got. I need to slow down and appreciate what I have. For me to understand that personally, I needed to go through agonizing pain and loss. And that has been my greatest teacher. It has, you know. I'm not saying I'm a sage and I don't struggle with things anymore. I do, but I think I understand this lesson in life like a lot more now. I believe that pain is a guidance system, and it's ultimately part of our connection to like our like direction in life. I think, you know, just to use like a few really simple analogies, I've got a couple of notes here which I haven't really looked at. I think that you can't really appreciate like coming into a warm, dry house or home if you haven't experienced like, you know, the weather outside, the cold or the wet outside. You know, I believe that like we only really understand what light is, because dark is like a lack of light. And essentially I don't think like the concept of a utopia can exist, because we need pain and suffering and lack of to appreciate and understand the presence of something, like for us to have gratitude and learn these lessons, you know, for us to have this direction and actually enjoy what we have, we need to understand what it's like to not have. And that's why I believe it's important to walk towards pain and not avoid it, because if we let it, I believe it's our biggest signpost, our biggest guiding star to growth as humans, because it forces us, or at least it forces us to make the decision as to whether we're going to grow in empathy or not. And if we're not here to understand each other and connect more as a species, as a race or whatever, then what the fuck are we here for? So I believe, you know, that's pain's role in our life. It's pain's role in our evolution. I believe if we let it, it will strip away all the facades and shit. If we look at it face to face for what it is, it'll take away all of the bullshit, force you to look at, you know, what's actually happening, who you actually are. And I think it'll ultimately make us connect with each other more, because if you have been through a pain, now you understand what other people who've been through that pain feel like, and you can create connections with them and help them and make them feel less alone, and maybe make a video like this and maybe it'll help them. Like, that's what I'm trying to do with this video. I'm trying to use my pain that I've been through as a catalyst to help people connect, to help me at least connect with other people who have been through a similar pain. So, you know, I believe that pain serves the purpose of making us connect as humans, if we let it, you know, and teaching us the hardest lessons and guiding us to what we should be looking at. You know, if pain is there, whether it's physical or psychological, it is telling us that something is out of alignment, something is wrong, something needs to be healed. And I think it also, if you pay attention to those signs, it will make you grow as a person. And I think the main thing that indicates growth as a person, in my opinion, is growth. For me anyway, in my experience, it's growth in empathy. You know, growth in understanding other people and opening up. And I believe that that's what pain has done for me. It's torn me to shreds, it's torn me apart, but I do believe that, like, I actually kind of understand gratitude now. I believe that I kind of understand people a bit more. I'm not ignorant to the plights of other people, or at least if I do, you know, come across blunt or ignorant, I do actually have the capacity now to, like, understand and grow, and, you know, because I can relate to my own suffering, you know. And even if I don't, I know what it's like for people to not be able to understand your suffering. So even if I don't get someone's particular, you know, like say a woman is talking about like something to do with pregnancy or something, and I don't understand it, and now through my experience, I'm not going to be like, well, it can't be that bad. I'm going to be like, okay, well, even though I haven't experienced what you've experienced, I have experienced pain, and I know what it's like for people to not understand. So, like, I get it. I believe you. You know what I mean? And I think basically that's what pain can do for all of us if we pay attention to it. It's scary. It's the scariest thing. That's why everyone's running away from it. But it's also the thing that we need to, you know, if you feel pain or fear, I believe that you need to go towards it, because it will ultimately force you to grow. And I'm going to end it there, because I don't know how long I've made it now. Hopefully it's under a fucking hour. If any of this helped, even just like one person, please just like leave a comment saying that it's helped, because if I actually have helped people, I'll make more videos like this. And yeah, if it's resonated with you all, do me a massive favor and subscribe. We'll see how this goes. I've got a lot more to say and a lot more that I think I can help with if this is actually resonating with people. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that, and we'll see how it goes. You know, I'll make another video on this if it helps. So yeah.